The water hit her face like a slap. Cold and humiliating. As 50 people watched and laughed. Lorelai should have apologized, should have bowed her head and smiled through the cruelty like the training manual said. But something in the rich woman's eyes, that look of pure contempt, made her spine straighten and her voice come out steady and strong. Then make the call. The crystal water glass hit Lorelai's face before she even saw it coming. Cold water streamed down her cheeks, soaking through her white uniform blouse and dripping onto the polished marble floor of the Grandview Hotel restaurant. The laughter started immediately, sharp, cruel sounds that seemed to bounce off the chandeliers above. Lorelai stood frozen, her tray still balanced in one hand, the other instinctively rising to wipe her face. "Did you really think I wouldn't notice?" The woman's voice cut through the dining room like broken glass. Mrs. Victoria Ashford sat at table 7, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against the white tablecloth. Diamonds caught the afternoon light from her wrists, her neck, her ears. "You gave me regular water, not sparkling. Do I look like someone who drinks tap water?" Lorelai's jaw tightened. She'd been working double shifts for 3 weeks straight, her feet aching in shoes that were falling apart, her mind foggy from exhaustion. But she kept her voice steady. "Ma'am, you ordered still water. I can check the—" "Are you calling me a liar?" Victoria rose from her chair, her silk dress rustling. The restaurant had gone completely silent now. 50 pairs of eyes watched from nearby tables. "Do you know who I am? My husband donated $2 million to this hotel's renovation. I could have you fired with one phone call." Lorelai felt the water dripping from her chin onto her collar. She should apologize. That's what the training manual said. Apologize, offer to fix the problem, smile through anything. But something in Victoria's eyes, that look of pure contempt, like Lorelai was something stuck to the bottom of her expensive shoe, made her spine straighten instead. "Then make the call," Lorelai said quietly. The restaurant erupted in whispers. Victoria's face turned red, then almost purple. "Excuse me?" "I said make the call." Lorelai set her tray down on the nearest table with deliberate care. Her hands weren't shaking. "Not anymore. Because I brought you exactly what you ordered. Still water, no ice, with lemon on the side. Just like you asked. And throwing a glass of water at someone who's trying to do their job doesn't make you powerful. It makes you cruel." Victoria's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You insolent little. Is there a problem here?" The new voice came from behind Lorelai, deep and calm. She turned to see Marcus Chin walking toward their table. He wore a simple black suit, no tie, and moved with the kind of quiet confidence that made people step aside without realizing they were doing it. Lorelai had seen him around the hotel a few times over the past month. Always watching, always listening, never saying much. She'd assumed he was some kind of manager or inspector. Victoria's expression changed instantly, melting into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, thank goodness. Are you the manager? This waitress has been incredibly rude to me. First she brought the wrong water, then she had the audacity to—" "I'm not the manager," Marcus said. He stopped next to Lorelai, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. "But I'd like to hear what happened. From her." He looked at Lorelai then, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. Not pity, not anger, just attention. Real attention, like her answer actually mattered. "Mrs. Ashford asked for still water," Lorelai said, keeping her voice level. "I brought still water. She threw it in my face and said I gave her the wrong order." "That's not," Victoria started, but Marcus raised one hand and she fell silent. "Did you check the order slip?" he asked Lorelai. "Yes. It's still in my pocket." "May I see it?" Lorelai pulled out the damp piece of paper and handed it to him. Her fingers brushed his for just a second. His skin was warm despite the air conditioning. Marcus studied the order slip, then looked at Victoria. "This clearly says still water, Mrs. Ashford." Victoria's smile flickered. "Well, I must have misspoken. But that doesn't excuse her behavior. She talked back to me. She was disrespectful. In my day, service workers knew their place." The dining room got even quieter, if that was possible. Lorelai felt heat rising in her chest, but before she could speak, Marcus stepped forward. In your day. His voice was still calm, but something had changed in it. Something cold. Mrs. Ashford, do you know what this hotel stands for? Victoria blinked. My husband and I are major donors. This hotel stands for respect. Every person who works here, from the CEO to the newest hire, deserves to be treated with basic human dignity. That's not negotiable. Not for donors, not for celebrities, not for anyone. I want to speak to the owner, Victoria snapped. Right now. I will not be lectured by some middle manager about how I'm supposed to behave when I'm paying for. Marcus pulled something from his pocket. A business card. He held it out to Victoria with 2 fingers. She snatched it from his hand, glanced at it, and went completely still. The card was simple. Black text on white background. Marcus Chin, owner and CEO, Grandview Hotel Group. Victoria's voice came out as a whisper. But I thought, the owner is supposed to be some old man who never comes to the... You thought wrong. Marcus took the card back from her trembling fingers. Then, while the entire restaurant watched in stunned silence, he did something Lorelai would replay in her mind 1,000 times over the next few days. He turned to face her fully and dropped to one knee. The gasp that went through the room sounded like wind rushing through trees. Lorelai's heart stopped. Her brain couldn't process what she was seeing. This man, this billionaire, this owner of a hotel empire worth more money than she could imagine, was kneeling in front of her in his expensive suit on the marble floor. I'm sorry, Marcus said, and his eyes never left hers. I'm sorry that you were treated this way in my hotel. I'm sorry that you've had to work double shifts because we've been understaffed. I'm sorry that your shoes have holes in them because we don't pay you enough to replace them. And I'm sorry that someone made you feel small when you've been working harder than anyone else on this staff. Lorelai's throat closed up. How did he know about the double shifts? How did he know about her shoes? Please stand up, she whispered. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Marcus stood slowly, but he didn't step back. Mrs. Ashford, you're no longer welcome at any of my properties. Security will escort you out. Victoria made a strangled sound. You can't. My husband will. Your husband can take his donations and his business elsewhere. We'll survive. Marcus gestured, and 2 security guards appeared as if from nowhere. Please make sure Mrs. Ashford finds her way to the exit. As Victoria was led away, still sputtering protests, Marcus turned back to Lorelai. The restaurant was still silent, everyone watching them like they were the final scene of a movie. Come with me, he said quietly. We need to talk. Lorelai's heart hammered against her ribs. She followed Marcus through the restaurant, past all those staring faces, past the kitchen doors, down a hallway she'd never been allowed in before. They stopped at an elevator with no buttons. Marcus pressed his palm against a scanner and the doors opened. The elevator was lined with mirrors. Lorelai caught sight of herself, hair plastered to her head, mascara smudged, uniform soaked. She looked like a drowned cat. Next to her, Marcus stood perfectly composed, hands in his pockets, watching the floor numbers climb. Am I fired? Lorelai asked. Her voice sounded small in the enclosed space. Marcus looked at her in the mirror. Why would you be fired? Because I talked back to a customer. Because I didn't apologize. Because you stood up for yourself? The elevator stopped. The doors opened onto an office that took Lorelai's breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, the afternoon sun painting everything gold. The furniture was modern and minimal, the walls covered in abstract art that probably cost more than her car. Marcus walked to a cabinet and pulled out 2 towels. He handed one to Lorelai. Sit, he said, gesturing to a leather couch. Please. Lorelai sat, clutching the towel. Marcus took the chair across from her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. I've been watching you for 3 weeks, he said. Lorelai's stomach dropped. What? I do this sometimes. Come to one of my hotels incognito, watch how things actually run when people don't know I'm there. And you? He paused, and for the first time, she saw something like emotion flicker across his face. You're the hardest worker on my staff. You remember every customer's name. You cover shifts for people when they're sick. You never complain. And yet you're paid minimum wage and treated like you're invisible. I'm just doing my job, Lorelai said. No. Marcus shook his head. You're doing 3 people's jobs. And you're doing it with grace that most people can't manage on their best day. He stood up and walked to his desk, pulling something from a drawer. An envelope. This is a formal offer. I want you to be the new director of guest experience for all of my hotels. Salary is $200,000 a year, full benefits, company car, relocation assistance if you need it. Lorelai's hands went numb. The towel fell from her fingers. I don't. You don't have a college degree, I know. You dropped out to take care of your mother when she got sick. She died 6 months ago and left you with $30,000 in medical debt. You've been working 3 jobs trying to pay it off. Tears blurred Lorelai's vision. How do you know that? Because I do background checks on employees I'm considering promoting. And because I recognize, Marcus stopped, his jaw tightening. He looked away, out the window at the city below. I recognize someone who knows what it's like to have nothing. The silence stretched between them, heavy and strange. I can't accept this, Lorelai finally said. It's too much. I'm not qualified. Then you'll learn. I'll teach you. Marcus turned back to face her. But I need an answer now. Because if you say no, I'm going to have to figure out another way to make sure no one ever throws water in your face again. Lorelai looked at the envelope on the desk, then at Marcus, then down at her soaked, ruined uniform. And then she laughed. It started as a tiny sound, almost a sob, but it grew until she was laughing so hard she had to wrap her arms around her stomach. Marcus stared at her like she'd lost her mind, which only made her laugh harder. I'm sorry, she gasped. It's just, this morning I woke up in my car because I can't afford rent and gas both. And now you're offering me. She couldn't finish. The laughter turned to tears, and then both at once, and she couldn't tell which was which anymore. Marcus handed her a box of tissues. He didn't say anything, just waited while she cried and laughed and tried to breathe. Okay, Lorelai finally said, wiping her eyes. I'll take the job. But I need to know why. Why what? Why me? Why Neil? Why any of this? She gestured at the office, the envelope, everything. You could have just fired Mrs. Ashford and moved on. You didn't have to. 7 years ago, Marcus interrupted, his voice suddenly rough. I was washing dishes in a restaurant in Queens. The owner's wife didn't like the way I looked at her. I didn't look at her at all, actually, but she decided I did. She dumped a pot of hot soup down my back and told the owner to fire me. She did. No questions asked. I had burns that left scars, no job, and rent due in 3 days. Lorelai's breath caught. So when I saw Victoria throw that water at you, and I saw you stand there with your chin up and your voice steady, Marcus's hands curled into fists. I saw myself. Except you did what I couldn't. You didn't apologize. You didn't bow. You reminded her that you're human. He picked up the envelope and held it out to her again. Take it, please. Not because I feel sorry for you, but because you've earned it. And because someone should have done this for me 7 years ago. Lorelai took the envelope with shaking hands. When do I start? She asked. Marcus smiled, really smiled, for the first time. Tomorrow. But first, he pulled out his phone. We're going to pay off your mother's medical debt. And we're going to get you a place to live that isn't your car. And we're going to buy you shoes that don't have holes in them. You don't have to. I know. But I'm going to anyway. Marcus typed something into his phone. My assistant will meet you in the lobby in 20 minutes. She'll take you shopping and to a real estate agent. Take the rest of the day off. Come back tomorrow ready to work. Lorelai stood up, still clutching the envelope. Her head was spinning. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. But Marcus was holding the door open, waiting, and his smile was real, and the envelope in her hands felt solid and true. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, Marcus said, for reminding me why I do this. Lorelai walked to the elevator in a daze. The doors closed. She looked at her reflection, still soaked, still messy, but somehow different. Like she was standing straighter. Like she took up more space. The elevator descended, and with each floor, Lorelai felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. She was going to be okay. For the first time in a very long time, she was going to be okay? But as the elevator reached the lobby and the doors opened, Lorelai had no idea that her first day as director of guest experience would bring a visitor who would change everything. And that Marcus's past was about to walk through the door with a secret that would shake both their worlds. The shopping trip felt like a dream Lorelai would wake up from any second. Marcus's assistant Diane took her to stores she'd only ever walked past, buying suits and shoes without even looking at price tags. By evening, Lorelai had keys to a small apartment downtown, clean, bright, with windows that opened. At midnight, her phone buzzed with a confirmation. The medical debt. All $30,000. She cried herself to sleep on an air mattress and woke at dawn, heart racing. Her first real day started in 4 hours. Walking through the Grandview lobby in her new suit, Lorelai felt like an imposter. Staff members she'd worked beside for months stared with confusion, then something that might have been respect or resentment. Marcus was on the phone when she arrived, speaking rapid Mandarin. He gestured for her to sit, ending the call quickly. Kitchen fire in Shanghai. Everyone's fine, but we have bigger problems here. He turned his tablet toward her. Customer satisfaction scores. They're dropping across most properties. I need to know why. Lorelai studied the charts, forcing herself to focus. What's different at the 2 hotels where scores are rising? Marcus's eyebrows lifted. Exactly the right question. That's your job to find out. You'll visit every hotel over the next 3 months, work undercover with the staff, and figure out what's working and what isn't. I can do that, Lorelai said, thinking of all the years she'd spent watching, noticing the small things that made customers happy or managers fail. The next few days blurred together. Training sessions, department meetings, skeptical looks from people who thought she'd slept her way to the top. Let them think it. She'd prove herself through work. But Friday changed everything. Lorelai was reviewing inspection reports when Diane burst in, face pale. Mr. Chin, you have a visitor. Vivian Lancaster. She says it's urgent. Marcus went completely still. His tablet clattered onto the table. Tell her I'm not available. She says she'll go to the press if you don't see her. She's in the lobby with a child. The color drained from Marcus's face. He stood slowly, walked to the window. Send her up. Lorelai, you should go. I'll stay, Lorelai said. Some instinct told her Marcus needed someone in his corner. Marcus turned, and the fear in his eyes stopped her heart. Please, go. Lorelai left but didn't go far. She stood in the hallway as a beautiful woman emerged from the elevator, holding the hand of a small boy with dark hair and serious eyes. Eyes that looked exactly like Marcus's. Vivian swept past without noticing her. The office door closed. Raised voices came through, not shouting but intense. And underneath, a child's voice. Mommy, who is that man? Lorelai's phone buzzed. Diane, conference room B. Now. She found Diane pacing, composure shattered. Vivian Lancaster. Marcus's ex-fiancée. 8 years ago, she dumped him when she found out he'd been a dishwasher. Said her family could never accept someone like that. She married a banker instead, had that boy. Why is she here now? Her husband left 6 months ago, took the money. Now she's broke and remembered the dishwasher is worth $3 billion. Diane pulled up a gossip blog on her phone. She's threatening to tell the press that boy is Marcus's son. She has fake DNA tests, fake emails, everything. Unless Marcus pays $10 million. Lorelai's stomach turned. Is it true? No. Marcus was gone before she got pregnant. But truth doesn't matter. The scandal alone could destroy everything he's built. Lorelai's hands curled into fists, remembering Marcus kneeling before her, sharing his story of burns and humiliation. We have to help him. Get me everything you have on Vivian Lancaster. Everything. For 3 hours, Lorelai dove into Vivian's life. Instagram posts at expensive restaurants. Designer shopping bags from last week. A new luxury car purchased last month. She's not broke, Lorelai said, spreading printouts across the table. Look at this spending. She's lying. Marcus's lawyers arrived. Lorelai presented her findings, heart-hammering. These were important people, and she was yesterday's waitress. But they listened. Good work, but not enough to prove the paternity claim is false, the senior lawyer said. What if we don't need to prove that? Lorelai pulled up another document. 3 years ago, there was a sealed lawsuit. A businessman claimed Vivian ran the same scheme, said she was pregnant with his child, demanded money. He paid $50,000 to make her go away, then found out the child wasn't his. He never pursued charges because he was married. The room went silent. Get me that man's name, the lawyer said. Now. 2 hours later, Marcus emerged from his office looking like he'd aged 10 years. Vivian was still in the lobby, the boy asleep on her lap. Marcus approached, flanked by lawyers and Lorelai. I've thought about your offer, Marcus said, voice empty. I'm willing to discuss payment. But first, I need to verify your claims. Vivian's face hardened. I have the tests. Fake tests, Lorelai interrupted, stepping forward with a folder. We know about Richard Morrison, the businessman you scammed 3 years ago with the same story. We have his testimony, evidence of your spending, and a court order for a real DNA test. Vivian's face went white, then red. You can't. Who are you? Someone tired of watching people like you hurt people like him. Walk away now and never contact Mr. Chin again. Or we take everything to the police and press, and you explain to your son why his mother's going to jail for fraud. You're bluffing, Vivian said, but her voice shook. Try us, Marcus said quietly. Vivian looked around at the lawyers, at Lorelai, at security guards blocking the exits. Then she grabbed her purse and ran for the elevator, dragging the sleepy child behind her. Marcus turned to Lorelai, eyes red but smiling. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. She might still go public. She won't. People like Vivian only fight battles they can win. He ran a hand through his hair. How did you find all that in 3 hours? I watched. I listened. I noticed things. It's what I'm good at. Marcus laughed, tired but genuine. I should have made you director of everything. That night, Marcus insisted on buying her dinner. In a small restaurant far from the hotel, wearing jeans and a simple shirt, he looked almost normal. Why did you really give me this job? Lorelai asked. Marcus was quiet. After I was burned and fired, I lived in my car for 2 months. Just like you. I worked every job I could find and promised myself that if I ever made it, I'd never let someone else feel as small as I felt then. He looked up, eyes bright. When I saw you refuse to apologize for something that wasn't your fault, I saw who I wanted to be. Someone who stands up even when it costs everything. And today, when you fought for me, no one's done that since I left Queens 7 years ago. Lorelai reached across the table and took his hand. You're not alone anymore. Marcus looked at their hands, something warm and vulnerable in his eyes. Be careful. I'm not good at letting people in. Then we'll take the walls down together. One brick at a time. They talked until the restaurant closed. About scars, visible and invisible. About the impossible path that led them both here. When Marcus walked Lorelai to her apartment, they stood in the doorway for a long moment. Thank you, Marcus said. For everything. Stop thanking me. We're partners now. Partners? He repeated, nodding. I like that. After he left, Lorelai leaned against her door, heart racing. 3 days ago she'd been sleeping in her car, drowning in debt. Tonight she had an apartment, a job, a purpose, and maybe a friend who understood exactly what it felt like to build everything from nothing. Sometimes the worst moments are just the beginning of something better. Sometimes someone throws water in your face, and the world changes forever. Sometimes, if you're lucky, someone sees you drowning and pulls you to shore, not because they have to, but because they remember what drowning feels like. Lorelai fell asleep with tears on her cheeks and a smile on her face. And across the city, Marcus stood at his window thinking about a waitress with fire in her eyes. He'd built an empire trying to prove his worth. But tonight, watching someone fight for him the way no one ever had, he felt like maybe he'd finally built something that mattered. Not hotels or money or power, but connection, purpose. The kind you only find when you stop building walls and start building bridges instead.